Miell.
Hello. Apologies in advance if my computer dies. Sorry, I'm being pointed at. Is that okay? Apologies in advance if my computer dies. I just bought a computer with no fan, which is interesting. So, especially in hot environments like this, it may just die suddenly. So I'm going to talk about something I've just been doing in my spare time, which has been kind of fun, a good learning experience, and kind of interesting for me. I thought I'd share it with all you. It's called Docker Package Management and Building from Source. Before I start, how many people here describe themselves as devs turned DevOps? Oh, there's a lot of half hands there. What about sysadmins turned DevOps? A little bit firmer, but about the same. Okay. So I'm by background a developer. So, but in the last year I've had a lot of interactions with sysadmin types because I got really interested in Docker, and it tends to be sysadmin people who are really keen on it initially, and I found that sort of clash of cultures quite interesting. So I come at it from a very different angle. So just to give you an overview of what the talk is, it's a bit of a, as I say, it's a bit of a mixed bag. It's sort of the story of how I went from doing massive containers to finding a way to do small containers. And to skip to the end of it, someone from Docker contacted me about a blog post I did and said, "Oh, that's really interesting. We'd really like to do that stuff, but we haven't got time. We're all too busy actually trying to make all this stuff work." So it was a very interesting journey for me. I'm going to talk a bit about the history of config management, and where I think it's gone and where it might be going. How Docker changes things in terms of package management particularly. Why I ended up doing an insane thing, which was building a distro. And finally, I'm not selling anything. This is just something I did in my spare time, so don't take it too seriously. So until recently I worked at the company for 14 years, and so we've been around a long time, and Docker, I saw Docker as a thing which could help us a lot. So I introduced it at the company, and I evangelized for it very, very heavily. And it's now got some traction. In order to get it working, I hurriedly hacked up a tool called Shut It, which allowed us to very quickly and easily, I'll talk about it more in a bit, but it allowed us to very quickly and easily construct monolithic containers, because Drfile didn't really do it for us. By the way, how many people here have used Docker in anger? Okay. Fair amount. How many people have used it in production? Okay. How many people have used it with orchestration? Okay. Of those who've used it with orchestration, how many have used Fig? How many have used Kubernetes? One. One hand. Mesos? Oh, okay. Interesting. So I'm working on a book called Docker in Practice. One of the interesting discussions we had with the publishers was, you've got a chapter on Docker in production, right? Not many people are doing that, and you're going to talk about Kubernetes. You should be talking about Mesos as well. I have no idea how popular that is, and I've never used it myself, so it looks like I'm going to have to read up on Mesos, doesn't it? So I've got a blog on Docker stuff, and I don't know, there's about 45,000 Docker images apparently, according to the website on the Docker Hub, but I'm not sure I believe that. And I've got about 0.8% of them, so and a lot of them are very big, so I really don't know how much of their space I'm using. I'm a bit concerned I'm using up a lot of their resources. So adopting Docker within my last company, it was an old monolithic software stack, but we managed to speed up the process with what was considered an pure approach of having big containers with lots of stuff. But the question arose, how do we build them? So I really like the idea of Docker files. They're simple, very easy to grasp, and give someone a template and go off with. The real problem I had was that they weren't modular. We had lots of bits of things to build to make these big containers up, and it was a lot of stuff. and you couldn't really just go, I want this and this and this, and bundle it all together. And it wasn't configurable, for good reason, but it wasn't configurable, and we kind of needed that. So I looked very briefly at Chef, Puppet, and Ansible, but I didn't really have time to get to grips with them. I needed something simple to comprehend with Python control and fast. I mean, fast in the sense that I needed it like yesterday to demonstrate that Docker was going to work. So I did shut it. Now, this is where I go into a little discussion about the evolution of config management. So who remembers a time when there was no source control? Good, yeah, a lot of you. I remember the uproar at my company when we were forced to use CVS, and we were using tar files to deliver software to our customers. It was an interesting time. So seat of pants, just shove it online and forget about it. Then you go to backup, then you go to source control, then you go to continuous integration, then you go to continuous delivery, and finally Phoenix deployment. Are we all comfortable with the idea of what Phoenix deployment is? Okay, a lot of shaking heads. So Phoenix deployment is the idea that you don't deliver to something and then push changes to it. You slash it and you put something new over it, something rebuilt from scratch. So the analogy I like to use is, imagine rather than buying a car, you have a new car delivered to you every day. So the chance, that car may fail, but the chances of it failing are far less than your car, which you've carefully curated for years and made slight changes to, and some of those changes conflict. And does that sound familiar? So Phoenix deployment, and obviously Docker is a great tool for doing that, because essentially it's a way of packaging software. So I've drawn this little table of configuration management and divided it up into different areas. So you've got, at the beginning you've got Bash, just using Bash, which is kind of the early stages, and then moving down somewhat teleologically to my tool. But sequential commands, obviously Bash is sequential, Chef is not, Puppet is not, Ansible is, Pack and so on. Whether it's composable, modular, whether you can save state during the build, whether you, the deployment mechanism, and whether it's stateless. And I think the last one's key for Phoenix deployment. Is it something you can deploy and rebuild and just run anywhere? And it's Packer, Drfile, and shut it, fill that criteria. So it's worth talking a bit about how Docker changes things. I saw a quote the other day from, I can't remember where it was from a slideshow. It said, Docker will do to apt what apt did to tar. And I think that's a really succinct way of putting it. You don't need to make, you can just plonk it anywhere, and it's effectively it's just the way to deliver code. You can separate build from deployment. That's absolutely critical. You don't need to worry about idempotence, and you don't need to be declarative anymore. You can just be sequential. So that's the theory. In practice, I've done a few things, because obviously I got shut it working within my last company, but that wasn't very visible. So I looked for other things to do, and there was a project called Tiger.io, which I don't know if anyone's heard of, but it was a real pain to install. So I managed to get a thing working with Shut-it, which used different modules to get that up. OS Query, I don't know if anyone's heard of that, but that's the Firefox, Facebook means of doing SQL queries to discover how your system is performing, the SQL interface to monitor it. That was very tricky to set up, and I managed to quickly get an image up for that. I also set up a DAS cluster. I don't have network here, so I can't show you all this stuff, but it'll be on the slides. But the OS query build got me thinking, because it was very source-based, and I thought it's kind of annoying that I have to deal with different package management systems in order to get this to work. And I thought, well, why can't I build everything from source? So I spent a long set of weekends and fallow periods compiling stuff from source, and I learned a lot about the process. and put together my own distro. So So this is the dependency diagram of the hundreds of packages I've put together, and they're all built from source. And at the core of it, you've got the core module, which everything has to reference. And then you've got all sorts of stuff in there, which I spent weeks trying to figure out how to do, culminating in Mesos there. So that was fun. That was kind of an interesting thing to go through. Let's go back to the talk. I would have liked to show you the video, but I don't have network, so I can't show you a demo. But one of the outputs of this, which you can see on the slides, is that for a link from the slides, is that you get a complete bash history of the commands. And that's particularly useful if security is a concern for you. One of the benefits of using the configuration management tool we used was that it made escrow really easy, because we had this sequential list of commands from a known starting point you could download from the web. So a process that previously took days to persuade escrow consultants that we were legit took half a day. So yeah, that's one benefit. By the way, has anyone noticed that a lot of Docker files you find on the web just don't work? Even ones from the original Turnbull book, many of them just didn't work when I tried them. So the network really is the enemy of stability in builds. And one benefit of this, you can actually just download tarballs and just state that they're done, and all the work you do is on the client. Has anyone heard of the concept of a DevTools container? I don't know if any of you ever find yourself on a machine where you're not familiar with the environment and you wish that that tool was available. One way to deal with that is to create your own Docker image, which you can download from anywhere, and then mount the code that you're working on from within the machine you're working on, security permitting. But that is a really useful thing, and I've been using that recently myself when I've been on other machines. And yeah, one consequence of this is that you can get really slim containers, and that's where the guy from Docker came in and asked me about, and gave me some tips as well about how to slim down your containers using I-notify weight and so on. Some of the things I got from it, some to-dos, automate the slimming, so stripping binaries, removing man pages. I learned that Git was huge if you compile it. It's hundreds of meg. I don't know why. I'm still going to figure that out. Improve the download of tarballs. SourceForge is in disaster recovery mode, literally over 50% of the time, as far as I can tell. So the network, as I say here, the network really is the enemy. I want to obviously get more packages in there. I've started using it for my own purposes, and it's been quite useful for me. And suggestions. Buildings from source can get quite addictive. So that's it, I think. That's all. Thanks very much for listening.
Any questions for Ian? I think what we'll do is we'll try and get you some network. So once everyone's got some pizza and some beer, we can do the demo and all the video. Yeah, cool. Okay. Yeah, pizza's here already, actually. So can you just not move around too much yet, because we're going to try and distribute it around the room so you don't have an unseemly crush over the pizza. Anyway, that's about it. I think there's loads of beer to drink. Pizza's here. Can we get some more pizza as well, aren't we? Yeah. Resilient pizza. So we've got Domino's here now, and Papa John should be coming a bit later. So I think there's a message there for running an airline or something. Anyway, thank you everyone for coming. Sorry it's so hot in here. Sorry that more of you turned up than we were expecting and there's not enough seats. But thanks so much to our host, Gamesys, which is a great venue if it was warm. So thank you for them. And thank you to all of you for coming. That's it. Thank you very much.